This week on the 5 Star Podcast of Wrestling, we break down SummerSlam, the biggest extravaganza of the summer, what went right, what went wrong. We'll also talk about the shocking return of Sasha Banks on Monday Night Raw, plus a breakout performance for Buddy Murphy on SmackDown. All that upcoming on the 5 Star Podcast of Wrestling. And welcome back to the 5 Star Podcast of Wrestling. I'm your host, Sean Meyers, and back in the saddle, one Justin Lowery. Justin, a little under the weather, but he is a trooper powering through to join us. Welcome back, and Justin, I want to jump right into things. I loved SummerSlam, and I really, for the most part, enjoyed Raw and SmackDown. I thought this was one of the better weeks we've seen in a long time for WWE. I think it's a step in the right direction. We'll continue. We'll see. But I really was very pleased with everything that I saw. Really going back to NXT over a 4-day period, Toronto, I would say, was a home run from start to finish.
Well, I'm not saying it was bad, but I clearly don't share your enthusiasm. I thought the takeover was just okay, and that's clearly based on takeover levels. I thought this takeover wasn't even in the top third of takeovers.
I would probably agree with that, but it, like you said, the bar is so high that it's still really good wrestling.
Oh, it is, and that's why I want to specify that. It's just on that high. I'm grading this on a very high bar. So to me, it was just, it was decent, but nothing, crazy happened, nothing surprising. I thought the women's title match was just blah, and the crowd clearly thought so too. That match.
Are you over Shayna Baszler in NXT?
Oh yeah, I was never a huge fan. Like, I get what she brings to the table, and I don't mind it. It's something different, but I'm way over her title reign. I don't know why she's had it this long. I'm ready for something new and fresh. For me, my favorite match of the night was actually another women's match. Was Io Shirai and Candice LeRae. I thought that was amazing.
That blew me away. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, I had high hopes. I was hoping they were going to deliver, knowing both their reputations, and they really both did. It was great to see.
So you talk about NXT Takeover. We can agree, it's always a good show. We can maybe discuss a little bit more as we go on. But for me, SummerSlam was just a thoroughly enjoyable show, and so many times we've seen good shows really be soured by the finish. And usually it's Brock Lesnar ruining stuff. He did it at Money at the Bank. He did it at, Extreme Rules, where he cashed in on Seth. I will be honest, I was expecting the main event to really be disappointing. I thought it would just be ugly for Seth Rollins, fans turning on him. Probably not a very entertaining match, a typical Brock Lesnar, I don't really want to work with this type of guy match. But it was the complete opposite. So let's start with the end of SummerSlam. I was just blown away by how it exceeded my expectations. And as much as I hate Brock Lesnar, I will give him full props. He did his job perfectly. He made Seth Rollins look like a star. And Seth needed that performance because he's really struggled as a face. But I think that gave him some second life because the fans very naturally, organically rallied behind him with how that match turned out.
Yeah, in all honesty, you know this. I saw the whole pay-per-view except the main event because I fell asleep. I woke up and Seth was standing there holding the title, and you sent me a text message, and I responded, fell asleep. I have not seen the full match. I've seen bits and pieces, but it got rave reviews. So basically what that tells me is Brock Lesnar, when motivated or when he wants to, can still deliver a very good, entertaining match. Rollins is what Rollins is. He's a pretty good ring worker.
But that's what they need to show with him, right? That needs to be his number one asset.
It does, but that it factor that they like to call. I don't think he has it. Like, he's not a star. His promos are just average. And leading up to the build, he came off, as you can see, the crowd was turning on him. It wasn't flowing right. But luckily, the crowd got into the match, and the match delivered, and they got behind him. Now, the question is, how will he follow up with that? Are they going to go back to the way things were going, where his title reign was pretty stale? Or are they going to keep the momentum going? I have faith in Paul Heyman, and apparently it was Paul Heyman's call for Brock to drop the title. So if he really is leading the way creatively right now, I do have faith in him. So I expect big things. It's all about who's going to be the next challenger for Rollins. You can't, Baron Corbin being your, primary challenger, that's dull. That's not going to get the job done. The rumor is that's going to be Braun Strowman at Night of Champions.
Based on the end of Raw, I think that's...
Which makes me a little intrigued and nervous. They put all this time and effort into building Rollins up as the face.
Right.
But him against a face Braun, who's probably going to get some cheers, could take away from it. Even if they try turning Braun heel again like they did in the
I hope
past,
not. I hope not.
It won't work. And I could see them, all the work they put in to get Rollins over, being wiped away in less than a month. That's my concern there.
So I thought that was a great finish to SummerSlam, but I thought that the show was pretty strong throughout. Now, there were some things that fell flat, and I thought Kofi and Randy, it was kind of a slow, methodical match. I didn't hate the match, but everyone hated the ending. That ending was just horrible. There had to be something that was messed up there.
Apparently not. That was the planned ending. I thought the ending was horrible. The crowd responded, the way they did because it sucked.
You have to do something more than that for a count-out to occur.
Right. On a pay-per-view, especially what's supposed to be your second biggest pay-per-view, a double count-out like that's just lazy.
If they're going to do a double count-out, do some crazy spot that leads to it.
Literally can't get up. Something insane. That was stupid. You know me. I'm not a big fan of Randy Orton's matches. Like you said, they're very slow, methodical. Not really my cup of tea. It seems like even going into SmackDown a little bit, the crowd's kind of turning on Kofi a little bit. I don't know if it was just that Toronto SummerSlam.
I cannot understand why they would.
I don't understand that. I don't get it. With Roman, I got it. I don't understand unless they just want to be cool and do something different. Let's boo Kofi now because that's what's cool. But I don't get it because Kofi, all intents and purposes, has been pretty entertaining champion. He's done what he's can with it,
and he's kept most of what made him cool to begin with.
Right. So, I know Randy's been around. He has his fans, but I don't know. He's not doing anything new to be like, oh, we want Randy to be a 14-time champion. I don't get that. I'm hoping that it was just the SummerSlam weekend crowd, and then next Tuesday everything kind of goes back to status quo with that.
Fair enough. So I thought that was a disappointment. I also thought Ricochet and AJ, while it was a good match and a really cool spot to finish it, I wanted to see that match go a little longer.
I thought the match, it was a good match with a great ending.
Right.
The finish, I love the finish.
It was awesome.
A good match with an awesome ending. That's what I thought of that match.
Bayley and Ember, crowd just wasn't behind it because the story wasn't there. But when I look at the rest of the card, Justin, I see things that worked. I saw Natty and Becky have a pretty good match, and whether you're a fan of Natalya or not, the crowd was into it, probably because she's Canadian. We get that. They were into Becky. Becky got a really nice response. You look at the match between Trish Stratus and Charlotte, man, that was incredible. And Trish was always known as being pretty good in the ring, but 5, 8, however long years removed from being an active competitor on a regular basis, I don't know that I saw that coming. I thought that match really was above and beyond as well.
Yeah, that match was special because apparently that was her final match. And, growing up in the Attitude Era, Trish always holds a special place in my heart. And, it was entertaining. The crowd, ate it up. I mean, the winner was never in doubt. But, it was a fun, good match. I mean, I thought all the whole card of SummerSlam, it was good. Not great, but I thought it was very solid and good.
How good was Bray Wyatt? Because I think that probably got the biggest reaction out of anything.
My favorite thing of the whole pay-per-view pay-per-view wasn't a match. It was actually his entrance. I was like, wow, that was really cool. Like, creatively, whoever thought that up, I don't know if it's Heyman or Part Bray. Or
I was gonna say,
whoever.
I bet Bray had his influence
That,
on that.
that was pretty awesome. The lantern with his old face, and I mean, all that stuff was cool. It was creepy. It was fresh. It was different, and I loved it. Hopefully they follow it up. They don't drop the ball for like the 5th time with him. But I think it's really cool. I don't really think you see a character like this in all of wrestling. I'm not talking WWE. I'm talking like all of wrestling. It's pretty damn cool.
2 questions about Bray Wyatt going forward. One, he was not on Raw or SmackDown. Is that an issue, or do you kind of prefer that he's not on each and every week, and certainly not wrestling on a regular basis?
I guess he doesn't need to be on every week. I do think they should have followed up on Monday after the hot Sunday night SummerSlam just to build on the momentum. And I think if he's not there every week, that's fine. But you still need to have some type of segment.
A Firefly Funhouse or something.
Because you don't want people to forget him. You still want him to be, in people's minds. Because the worst thing you do is forgotten. And if you start doing it every other week, then it becomes a pattern, and that becomes stale. You don't want to keep him off 2 or 3 weeks in a row. I understand wanting to keep him fresh, but that also makes me think: do they really know what they want to do with him, where they're going to go with him, or are they just figuring it out week by week?
We'll wait and see on that. Last thing that I wanted to touch on at SummerSlam, I said on the show last week I wasn't a huge fan of Goldberg being thrown into this storyline with Dolph Ziggler. I understood why they did it, and they wanted to get that bad taste out of the mouth of Goldberg. I thought the match was exactly what it should have been, and that sucks for Dolph, but at least he got to really sell some spears. The crowd still is behind Goldberg, and that's why this company feels the need to put people in matches like that. But I love that this match was so secondary from the big matches that it really didn't take a lot of time or focus away from what the spotlight should have been on.
Well, because that was the second match on the card, right? So
yes.
It wasn't a prominent spot. I don't feel bad for Ziggler because Ziggler is what Ziggler is at this point. I think he knows it. I mean, just go out there and dude, that was awesome sell jobs on the spears. Like that was selling like a champ. Him and Buddy Murphy last night on the spear. I mean, the sell jobs were amazing. Look, I don't want people to boo Goldberg, but I do hate the fact that when you get these part timers come back, whether it's Goldberg or the Undertaker, people go nuts. It's like this is amazing because I don't need to see these guys wrestle anymore. I don't care to see them wrestle anymore. And what they're doing is stopping somebody else from maybe stepping up. They're also holding back the WWE, even though Vince doesn't see it that way. Because
let me ask you this then: if you're, let's say you're running WWE, not as Vince McMahon, but as Justin Lowery, and Goldberg says, "Hey, I want to wrestle a match," and you hear that reaction, do you not use them? Do you use them to put over someone young? What's the?
I'm like, all right, here's the deal. We can use you. There's 2 options. You could use him against another part-time veteran, just for a marquee match where you're not really hurting somebody. It's whatever.
Which is what they did with Ziggler.
Right, Ziggler. Right, you're not hurting Ziggler.
Right.
But I would be like, now he's hurt right now. Nor do I really care for him. But Lars Sullivan, if he was healthy and Vince really wanted to push him, and you know what, Goldberg, I want you to go out there and get destroyed by this man. Okay, he's the next Jew. Okay, he can't really wrestle. We're gonna do squash matches. You're gonna go in there 2 minutes. He's gonna squash you. You're gonna help get this guy over. That's what I would use him for. And if Bill says no, then no, okay, no thanks. Then see you around.
Here's the only issue with that. They tried to use the Undertaker to put over Roman Reigns. The match was ugly. It didn't work how they wanted. So I could see that being the plan, but it doesn't always work out, especially if a guy like Goldberg looks awful. That doesn't help Lars.
Well, here's the thing. If the Undertaker was wrestling Daniel Bryan then, would they have the same reaction? Probably not. I think that had more to do with not wanting Roman than
right. I get that. But I do remember that match just being sad to watch.
Well, a lot of Taker's matches over the course of the last couple of years have been sad to watch. Honestly, I mean, it sounds kind of rude, but I feel when he legitimately dies, they're just going to take his corpse, roll it out there, and still try to have a match with it because they just don't let him go. And Taker should know better too. You would think he knows. To me, he's like hurting his legacy.
Right.
I mean, I don't need to see it. You know, I don't need to see that.
So, final grade on SummerSlam.
Solid B. Solid B. I can't give it an A because of a couple things. The Kofi, the ending of that match. The Bailey, Ember Moon match was a little flat. So little things like that. Nitpicking, but I give
Right.
it a B.
I would say A minus, but again, it was because of how great it ended. And that was a rare time where after the end of a pay per view, I was like happy. And maybe it's just because I hate Brock so much. But to see that main event go off just perfectly, I mean, how many times has a WWE pay per view recently ended with a great match with the right outcome?
Honestly, I don't know.
Not very often, right?
I can't even. Yeah.
Usually, the last match of the night, there's a lot to be complaining about, but I don't think many people had complaints after Sunday. We touched quickly on the results, but let's take a look at how well we did, Justin, because we want to pat ourselves on the back. So here are our predictions, and if you paid attention last week, or you can scan this over and see, we had the exact same picks, and that was not planned, but all 10 matches we had the same choice. And we go 9 of 9. Of course, the Kofi match, we picked him to win. That was a no contest. So out of the 10 matches, we're 9 of 9 with one no contest. I'm pretty happy with that. I thought that 7 of the 10 that we picked were pretty obvious, however, and that's not a great thing. There was 3 matches that I could see as toss-ups, and we just happened to get 2 of those right, and one of them was a no contest. So congratulations, Justin. 9 of 9. I'll take it.
Does that mean we're really good, or that was just very predictable?
I thought most people were picking Brock Lesnar to win.
See, I never got that feeling. I honestly didn't think the way the build-up was, Seth always getting destroyed. That was like booking 101.
It was a very weird way to get to that because if you go back to WrestleMania, it makes a lot of things seem pointless, right?
Oh, right. But then, right, absolutely. But normally, the person who gets destroyed on the go-home show,
2 straight weeks getting destroyed.
yes, means he's going to come out victorious, on the pay-per-view.
I agree. That being said, knowing how WWE works, when they book that on Monday, they don't probably know for sure who's going to win. They make that decision like Sunday morning.
Could be true.
Real quick on NXT, anything else you wanted to talk about? I thought Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano was good, but to me, I witnessed the best one firsthand. That was WrestleMania weekend, NXT New York. They're not going to live up to probably that first match and just trying to do the one-up. You end up not quite meeting the expectations or the bar that was set. That said, I mean, we're still looking at a terrific match, and ultimately, I hope that's the end. We'll see what happens next because what does Johnny Gargano do? But to me, Shayna Baszler, Johnny Gargano, they've probably done all that they can in NXT. I'd be fine with them moving up, but we didn't get any debuts after SummerSlam, which is a little surprising.
No, you would think, Gargano's done. But, with the rumor of NXT going live Wednesdays on FS1, these guys are going to stay.
Justin,
well,
I hate it. I hate it.
Here's the thing. That means Vince is going to get involved. Everything people love about NXT will go away because Vince is going to get his hands on it, and it's going to be the show going up against AEW, and he's going to want to beat them in the ratings, and he thinks he's going to know better, and it's going to make NXT suck.
I'm very, very concerned with that, and that's still not 100% confirmed. I get the idea that you put NXT on cable, but keep it the exact same. 1 hour, pre-recorded, I'm fine with that. I understand people are going to read spoilers, but the show works.
Right, it's not about that. Vince is now, how, people going, oh, AEW, they're going, after WWE. Not really. I mean, it's an alternative in a way they're going, but this is Vince purposely going after AEW, going up against them. And if it was a taped show, people would just read the spoilers, watch AEW live, and if you want to go back and watch NXT, get it on the network. Does that mean NXT's going off the network?
So what I read, and this is, I believe, what Meltzer said, it'll be on the network 30 days after it airs on TV. So you can watch it, but it gives you real motivation to watch it live or DVR it.
But, I mean, right. And see, this is what you have today that you didn't have back during the original Monday Night Wars. There's DVR. You can legitimately watch one show, DVR the other one, and just watch the next one the next day. You don't have to flip back and forth or put the old VHS in and hit record on the...
Hey, there was picture-in-picture back in the day, right?
You don't have to do that anymore. So I actually hate that they're thinking about doing this. It actually makes me angry. Like, talk about, you being excited. This makes me angry. It makes me hate Vince. Because I want to be able to watch AEW, at least at the start, see, hopefully I like it, give those guys a chance, see what's different about it. And, I love NXT. To me, NXT is my favorite brand of wrestling.
Well, keep NXT where it was, which is Wednesday nights for 1 hour. And I wouldn't blame them if they put it on TV for an hour, but that's what it's always aired at. But when you change it to 2 hours, and then you change the format, and then they're probably going to use main roster guys on a show to give it name appeal.
Oh, right. And then, too, I guess you're going to take it on the road, right? Are you just always going to have it a full sale?
It's really going to hurt the development of people who aren't established stars. It really will.
Right. It really, no one should say developmental brand or whatever. No, it's legitimately a third brand. Raw, SmackDown, NXT. There really isn't, well, why? Oh, you're being promoted to the main roster. Well, if you go live on cable, shouldn't those guys get a bump in pay then? Like, well, no, we're a television show now. We're just as important as Raw and SmackDown, right? Like, what does it do for salaries? I think there's a lot of question marks. If I was a wrestler and now all of a sudden I'm on a regular TV program every week for 2 hours, shouldn't I be a bump in pay?
Yes.
Because, right?
But I'm really, like, when you have those people that are just, like, cutting their teeth in NXT and getting on TV, they're not going to put them on cable for 2 hours going head-to-head because we're not ready, can't use them. They'll just work live shows, and they won't develop at the same rate. Potentially, this is all, pending confirmation on them going live, going 2 hours. But I'm very concerned about it. I will say that.
I agree. And one last thing, just to go back to the main event of this takeover, I'm over 2 out of 3 falls. I'm over. It's been done to death too recently, and I'm tired of seeing it.
Hey, well, the good news is the things that we complained about 6 weeks ago that WWE implemented looked like most of them are going away. The commercial breaks, no match, that's done, so that's great. The wild card probably will be gone when the shows separate to separate networks. And they started to phase that, at least they reduced it this past week. There was only like 2 wild cards or whatever. That's another good sign. So some of these things are improving on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, but you know what needs to improve? The Roman Reigns stupid-ass video package, or video package in general. I think every match except one on SummerSlam got a video package, and that was Bayley and Ember Moon. So that's all you need to know. What they
there was one other one, and I think it was it Bray and Finn, maybe? There was another one, for sure. But, yeah, I agree. It was...
Never stands out to me. But then seeing the same Roman video package on SummerSlam, then on Raw, then on SmackDown, and it's so hokey with the whole scout. Oh, my... Like, stop it. Like, I got it. I've seen it. You stop it, damn it. Stop it.
Justin, it's boss time. Because the biggest takeaway for me on Monday was the return of Sasha Banks. Man, I loved it because people hate her, and I understand that. She kind of acted immature and petulant. But, man, like, she looks great. She looks like she's motivated, and it seems like they have a real... I dig the blue hair. It seems like it's a real purpose that she has now, and that's what she's really wanted all along, I think, right? Just give me consistency.
Couple things. One, I did think she acted like a baby. I think everyone agrees with that. But did she end up winning in the end? Because now she's being rewarded with a hot-ass feud with Becky, which, look, Becky needs a hot opponent, needs a hot feud, because ever since she's won the title, it's been lacking. The women's division needs Sasha. I haven't missed Sasha, but the women's division needs her.
Someone said, like, after SummerSlam, I cannot. I scrolled. I wish I could remember the person. They said I looked at the entire Raw roster for women, and I can't find one legitimate opponent for Becky Lynch.
Right. It's funny because I think WWE's women's division from Raw, SmackDown, NXT is very loaded, but yet there's something missing because you can't find true opponents for these champions. It doesn't really make sense.
And they built up Natty and Ember, and they lost, and they're going to be gone.
They're gone. And even Lacey Evans, I thought she was horrible, but they built her up, and then she's just gone. The other thing I didn't understand was the removal of the wig. I don't know what that's supposed to
You and Mark Madden, huh?
Okay, blue hair means I'm healed? Like, does that mean I'm...
So I think it's really not that big of a deal. But here's my take on it, okay? If she came out and looked completely different from the start, that's like what people are going to be focusing on. They wanted more so like, oh, Sasha's just out to console Natalya, and then she does the turn, and now we see, well, she looks a little different. It's a new version of her, and it's sort of dropping the old version of Sasha Banks. But I do think people would be distracted if she made her return with this crazy new hair. That's all people would be talking and tweeting about, and they would like miss the big part of it, which is her turning.
Well, it's not like the Yeti coming up. Actually, as soon as she came out, I knew she was going to beat her up. Like, there's no way Sasha Banks is going to make her return by hugging Natty because Natty is cracked. Like, it was clear as day she was coming out and she was going to turn on her. So, blue hair or not, plus she's on Instagram and Twitter every week with a new hairstyle.
I thought she had blonde. I thought, like I saw a couple days earlier, she went blonde.
Clearly it must be all wigs. And then that's, wigs and hair extensions, but... So I figured she was going to go heel right away. She had a big pop. The crowd popped pretty good for her. And
because it's one of those things that, like, you thought she'd be back, but until you saw it, you didn't know for sure.
Right, and that was a legit surprise. Like, there was no rumors leading up, like, hey, Sasha's backstage at Raw, expect to see Sasha. Like, it was pretty much kept quiet, which is nice in today's world where things pretty much get spoiled right away. So that was cool.
Sasha and Becky will be going forward, and I'm guessing feuding, but to me, that could be WrestleMania caliber right there. So we'll see how they play it out. You don't want Becky to lose, but I think they need to make Sasha look very, very legitimate because she's coming back. She's not coming back to lose this and then go to the wayside. If she loses the feud, she at least has to continue doing something big.
Because, if Sasha does win and becomes champion, what does that say? Like, do other wrestlers then go, well, I can go home for a while and then get my way when I come back?
I would be curious to see the specifics. Did she get paid while she was doing that? Because it wasn't like she was injured. She was kind of just gone. She went away. I wonder if maybe they suspended her pay or, froze her contract, as you often hear. Something like that where other wrestlers, like financially, they take a hit. But either way, I agree. Like, you probably shouldn't reward her, but by the same token, if you want to put the best wrestling product out there, I'm all behind this. And her coming back was a great surprise. But man, I told you, I enjoyed Raw and SmackDown. The things I thought were great signs is, like, the former 205 Live guys, the guys who can really work, getting marquee matchups, getting the opportunity against some of Vince's favorites to go out and put on competitive matches and not just get squashed. They delivered. Cedric Alexander versus Drew McIntyre, and then Buddy versus Roman. Both matches were incredible, and the crowd got behind it, even though they don't really have much of a reason to care about these former 205 Live guys. And that's what it means a lot to me because I've always enjoyed that show. I've said how great it is. We saw firsthand on Monday and Tuesday what those guys can do.
Yeah, now my only question is, that's great. Like, everything you said I agree with. It's great. What do they do now? What do they do to follow up with Buddy Murphy and Cedric? Are they just not going to be seen for 2 weeks? Then it's all for naught. Like, we've seen guys show up, have a good match, and then be forgotten about. Like, what are you going to do with these guys? Like, that's the question.
That is a good question, Justin. We will have to wait and see, but at least it's a good sign going forward. Just about out of half an hour, so we're going to put a bow on this one. Any final thoughts that you wanted to discuss over the past couple weeks?
No, not really. I mean, I'm looking forward forward to the pay-per-view over Labor Day weekend for AEW. I'm looking forward the next couple of weeks to see where they're going with future storylines. I'm a Paul Heyman guy, so I'm intrigued by Raw now just because I know he's, doing things behind it. SmackDown, we'll see. I'm liking Kevin Owens, but I'm ready for Shane McMahon to be off my television.
That was my hope after SummerSlam, but to no avail.
I want to see what they're going to, what they're going to do with the women's tag team titles. Are they going to be more prominent? They're behind Alexa Bliss, so hopefully now, since they're on somebody they care about,
Agreed.
they do something with them. I would really like to see that belt have some type of meaning, just overall, like the IC title. I want to see what Shinsuke could do. There's certain things I want to see. I'm intrigued. We'll see if we get any debuts from NXT guys this coming week.
Right.
So we'll wait and see.
All right. Reminder, follow us on Twitter. It is 5-Star Pod Wrestle. On Instagram, it's 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. Of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Turn on notifications so you find out each and every time we drop a new video. But that's going to do it for this week. For my co-host, Justin Lowery, Sean Meyers signing off. We'll catch you again next week on the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling.